Good evening, and welcome to Learn Athletic Live number 6. Today, we'll be talking about real-time cross-country results, specifically sending individual results and team scores to the scoreboard, and then also sending individual splits and split team scores to a mobile scoreboard that people can view as you're timing a race. We'll also take a look at how you could show live team scores on physical devices using Result TV. My name is Ben Thomas. I'm the creator of AthleticLIVE, and I will be your host for this webinar today. If you have any questions while I'm going through the webinar, please feel free to use the Q&A feature on Zoom. And Dan Bedoin and Graham Dudick of Athletic Timing are our moderators today. They'll be able to answer any questions that you have. This is our 6th webinar. So if you haven't seen the other 5 or just want to learn more about AthleticLIVE, you can head to anet.live/webinars, and this link will also be in the Zoom chat, and you'll see a list of all the webinars we've done to this point. So our topics today. First thing, we'll go over some of the features that AthleticLIVE has when you're doing a cross-country meet. In previous webinars, we've talked a lot about track and field, and we've gone over how to set up meets, but we'll take a look today at just a few of the differences that exist when you're doing a cross-country meet. And most of that revolves around scoring, setting the number of scorers, the displacers, the tiebreaker, deciding whether or not you want to show live team scores on the scoreboard, and a few different things. So we'll take a look at those pieces. We'll also take a look at 2 different ways in which you can send live data to the scoreboard. First of those, we recommend only for smaller meets, and I would classify that as any meet that's not doing splits and where every race is going to be less than 300 people. You can just do a normal finish link scoreboard like we do in track, and we'll go over how that gets set up, pretty similar to the track scoreboard. And if you're doing any kind of event that either has splits or it's got races that are larger than 300 people, there is a different way in which we like to receive data that's a little more robust. And it has to do with auto-saving the lift file and finish links, and then allowing our middleware program, AthleticLIVE Local, to read that and send that up to us. So we'll go over that setup process today. It's a little more involved than just the normal finish link scoreboard, but there's a lot of benefits to using it. And then, like I said, we'll also take a look at being able to do live team scoreboards via Result TV on your physical scoreboards at the meet. Requirements for what we do today. For both of these things, you'll need finish links, and you'll also need AthleticLIVE Local, our middleware program. And of course, for the live team scores that are on physical boards, at this time, you'll need Result TV. If you'd like to follow along, we're going to have 2 different meets today. One of them is going to be the small meet that uses the normal finish link scoreboard, and one of them is the big meet that's going to use the auto saving of the lift. That small meet, and these links will be in the chat also. The small meet's at anet.live/learn6a, and the big meet's anet.live/learn6b. And this webinar tonight should take anywhere between 40 and 50 minutes. That being said, let's jump right in. So I've created a meet here, I just called it Learn Athletic Live 6 Small Meet, and we'll take a look at a couple of the differences when you're doing cross-country meets. So some different fields you'll fill in that you're not going to fill in track meets. First of all, when you select a sport, you'll select cross-country, and then pretty much everything is the same. You're still deciding on a site, deciding on a date, picking a credit. When you do select your timing system, you'll want to select finish links cross country, and we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, so you want to select finish links cross country if you're doing just the normal finish links scoreboard. And running time is the same, so the setup is no different than for track. And as we scroll down here, this is all the same until we get to the scoring option here. So just like in track, you have the opportunity to decide whether you want to even show scores for this meet at all, and if you do, whether they're separated by gender and division. In our case, it'll be separated by gender. Now, everything from this checkbox down is specific to cross-country, and I'll just describe what each of these checkboxes and fields are for. The first one is, do you want to show live cross-country team scores while the race is in progress? And this checkbox is sort of the start of what you'll see, where there's lots of different meets that have different levels of comfortability in showing certain team scoring data at certain points. Some meets, they don't like to show anything with regards to team scores, but on the actual live scoreboard. Some have no problem with it. Some will let you show team scores for splits, but not for the finish. This is just a checkbox that decides whether you want to show them or not. And as we'll see in a little bit, all of these settings can be customized per event as well. So let's say maybe you're doing a 10 race invitational. 8 of those races are be some JV or varsity meets, but maybe it's not like the super invitational meet. And for those other races, you're fine just having live scoreboard for everything. But maybe if there's one race that's super important and you really just, for whatever reason, don't want to show live team scores at the finish, you can do that. So, and we'll take a look at how to do that in a minute. So for our case, we do want to show live team scores while the race is in progress. Another option you have here is how the live team scores get shown. You can either show it in a partial, we can show partial teams. And what I mean by that is we can start showing team scores as people cross the line. And they're sorted by the number of scorers and then the number of points. So if 3 people have crossed the line, 2 are from team A, 1 is from team B. Team A, the team score is going to show that there are 2 scorers and they have X amount of points. And then team B has 1 score and X amount of points and they're in second place right now. So it's kind of cool to see everything evolve, and maybe there's somebody at the top that's got 4 scorers. And then when they hit that 5th, they go down. And we'll take a look at how that works. But it's just another opportunity where maybe partial teams is great, but of course, if there's lots of teams in a race that don't have their 5 scorers, then they are going to show up in the team scores as well, unless you exclude them from the race. And we'll look at how you can do that. The important thing is do you want to only show full teams on the scoreboard or not? And in our case, for our small meets, we're only going to show final scores on the live scoreboard. When we get to our second meet, we'll show what this looks like when this is unchecked and we're showing partial scores as well. This checkbox, when we get to the live team scoreboard page, you'll see that we show the scores and displacers for that particular team under the number of points that team scored. And this checkbox would allow everyone that's running that race to show up. So it's not a big deal for varsity races, but maybe for a JV race where you got 20 people from a team in there, it can be nice to have this box unchecked so you don't have 20 people under each team score list. And we'll see what this looks like here when we get to the actual meet. And then the 3 variables we're familiar with: the number of scorers, the number of displacers, and whether the tiebreaker is high school or college. And these are also customizable per event as well. And that's really it. So it's just everything's the same except for choosing your scoring options. We'll go ahead and save this. Now, about those overrides I talked about before we get into finish links and actually see some data come in. So I go to Manage Events and I click on Edit. So I'll go ahead and click on Edit for the boys. We'll see that there's an override scoring settings for this event. So we could override the number of scorers. We could decide whether or not to display finish team scores or finish individual standings, whether we want to show those partial teams or not. So this is the second race we'll do in this first meet. So I will go ahead and set the number of scorers to 4, just so you can observe what happens when you do an override. And then our meet default is to show final scores, but we'll go ahead and set that to no for the boys. So we can also see the difference in what final scores versus partial team scores looks like. And we can see those scoring overrides right here. So let's go ahead and jump in. Let's go back to the meet detail page, and then we'll click this to open up the meet. And let's get finish links open. Now, before I set up this cross-country scoreboard, today I'm going to use AthleticLIVE Local for both the small meet and the big meet. So we'll use the normal, we'll use just the normal finish link scoreboard for this meet, but instead of sending it directly to AthleticLIVE via these credentials right here, we'll send it through AthleticLIVE Local. So let me go to AthleticLIVE Local here, and we're going to need to choose meet. So I'll click change. We want to do our small meet. Click on submit. That'll open up all the protocols so we can start sending data to this meet. And if we look here on the admin page of the small meet, there is a link right here that gives you directions on how to create a cross-country scoreboard with finish links. Like I said, this is pretty much the same as track. There's a couple differences. If I go to scoreboard and options, I have created this scoreboard already. I just called it ALive XC results. The script is different, xciov1.lss. You can download that here via this link and put it into your C:/links folder. And it will appear here after you restart links. And then we're going to do network connect. Because we're going to AthleticLIVE Local, and AthleticLIVE Local is on the same computer as finish links, we are going to send to the local IP address of 127.0.0.1. And if we go to AthleticLIVE Local and we scroll down to our finish links cross-country connection settings, we'll see that the results port is 6590. So I'll plug that in and make sure results is set to auto. Make sure we have always send place and include first name checked. I do. So we're all set to go. I'll also double check here that my running time is set. Like I said, this is the same as in track, so you don't need to change this between seasons. So I've got my local IP address and 5320 is the running time port. Got running time set to normal, so we're good to go. All right. And if you're not familiar with AthleticLIVE Local, we go over this in detail in webinars 4 and 5. All right, so let's go ahead and open our girls 5K run. And let's head back over to the meet. All right, and there we go. It's now showing up here in the live events box, and I will go ahead and do a start. Just capture some image here. And start adding some results. So you see here, as I add these results, just like in track, they populate directly, or pretty much right as I make the marks and links. More here. And the difference here is I can go to team standings, and note that I can't see any team standings yet because we do not have 5 people from a particular team, because we've decided that we only want to see team scores once we have the requisite number of scorers. So I'll go ahead and add a couple more people from Jefferson High School. And this is our 5th score, so we should see some scores right here. Cool. So we're seeing that we've got 5 of 5 scorers and currently sitting at 15 points. They're at 15 points because no other teams have been entered into the scores yet. So as we see them, they have the only 5 scorers that exist in this meet. If we were to, once another team gets their 5 scores in, which should happen as soon as I hit that one. Oh, that's from a different team. Let's see here. Need to add one more from muscle shell. All right, so 386. Cool. So now we've got our second team right there, and it's showing points between these 2 teams. So all that's happening automatically. You're doing the same thing you're doing in links. It's just speeding up, and it's automatically generating those team standings for you. You can also filter. So this can be useful if you've got 300 people in a meet. What you want to see a particular team, start typing here, see that team, or if you type in someone's name, it'll, because Sandra Barnes here is in Jefferson High School, it'll show the team along with all the people that have finished here. So this is where that one checkbox about how many people show up under each team matters. So if I do a couple more here, Now let me get off that. So we'll see that I've got 8 people in now for muscle shell, but because this one checkbox wasn't checked, that says, do you want to show all of your members? It's only showing scoring and scorers and displacers. That's why we're only seeing 7 people right here. Okay, so pretty simple, pretty basic. We defined our scorers and all of our scoring settings, and they're appearing appropriately here on the live scoreboard. So let's take a look at what happens if when we go to that boys race and we see that there are a couple of overrides. Save this. Head to the boys race, give it a start. Get some picture here. See, we've got a couple coming in here. And make sure I set that override right. I might have, let's see, show real-time scores on scoreboard. Let's see, I may have messed that up, but for the sake of showing you how it works, I'm going to go ahead and just edit. So just to illustrate here that if you mess up the setting and you want to change something real quick, you can. We did have 4 scorers here, but it looks like something happened with the decision to override the ability to only show final scores. So I'm going to go ahead and just uncheck that, show only final scores on the live scoreboard. And if I were to remove this time here, now they'll show up. Okay, so I'll go ahead and remove these results real quick. We can see the team standings appear automatically. So we've got 3 scorers there. If I go to a different team, we'll see they appear right there. So you can kind of watch these scores come in as each person comes in. So this is my preferred feature when using this, just because it's pretty cool to actually watch the scores evolve as people come in. Add a couple more here just to finish them out. Okay, and Jefferson got their 4th score. Now they're in first place. And one other thing to note, so when doing this, the obvious flaw here is if you've got teams that you know don't have the right amount of scorers, that they're going to show up here and potentially mess up team scores. If you know there are certain teams before the race that aren't going to have the right number of scorers, you can exclude them from these team scores. And you can do that by in 2 different ways. One, if you know there's a team that needs to be excluded for the entire meet, you can go to exclude teams and you can check them off here. In addition, you can do this per event. So this could be good for like a state championship meet. If you want to show these real-time scores, but there's 15, maybe 15 kids that you know, don't have a team, they just came individually. You can come into the individual event screen and under actions, click exclude teams from scoring, and you can check them off right here. So in this example, if Jefferson should not score, could save this. And it won't be automatic, but the next time something comes in, it should erase Jefferson from those scores. So let's try it. Yep, so Jefferson now went away, and then I got this muscle shell school right here. So all of Jefferson's athletes are now excluded from the score. So lots of options there. You might decide it's much easier just to show only final scores, but if you want to show real-time team standings and as people come in, there's a couple tools you can use to make the scores look a little better, make them closer to reality, or what reality will be when you pull in the final results. All right, so once again, for this boys run, pretty simple. It's just final scores, and we're using the regular finish length scoreboard. So let's take a look at our second meet, our bigger meet, and see what this looks like with splits and when we potentially got much larger events. We'll go ahead in here and close finish links. So first thing I need to do, I just need to change my Z drive. I've got Z drive mapped to this small meet directory here, and I need to change it over to my large meet directory. So just 1 second. Okay. So I open links back up. We should be good to go. Now let me review the differences when you use this second option with this LIF export option. So first things first, we need to make sure finish links auto saves LIFs on a regular basis. We like to do it every 5 seconds. So every 5 seconds, finish links is saving the LIF. That's getting uploaded to AthleticLIVE, and the scoreboard is updating. So the way you do that, and this is all documented as well on the AthleticLIVE help site, we can go to, it's right here, configure the finish links XC LIF uploader. Click on that, and we get some directions here for how to enable autosave. So we'll click on File, hold Control Shift and click Options. This will bring up the hidden settings menu. Go to Database, go to LIF, and there's an autosave option here. And this is where you define the number of seconds. We recommend the number of seconds, how often finish link saves this LIF. We recommend 5 seconds. Any faster than that, and you can end up with some backups on the server with too many LIFs being uploaded. And I think 5 seconds is pretty good if you're doing real-time scoreboards every 5 seconds and it's updating team standings, split grids, things like that. It should be more than enough, or it should be 5 seconds should be allowable. And when you do change this, you will need to restart finish links. We already had this set to 5, so I'm just gonna click OK. So that's important. As I alluded to at the start, there is one slight difference when you're creating your meet in the AthleticLIVE admin. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that real quick. We'll go to Edit. And when you're selecting your scoreboard, you want to make sure it's using the Finish Links XC LIF scoreboard, not the Finish Links Cross Country scoreboard. So we've got that checked. We're all set to go there. So how does this work with being able to upload data from one or more machines and have it all get coalesced into a single event? So just briefly take a look at some diagrams here. So there's lots of use cases you can use with this. Obviously, with what we previously did, you're really only working from one computer. So that computer, that's just going to have the finish and it's just going to send data. But in cross country, there's lots of use cases where split points might be far away from the finish. You need to use a separate computer when you're doing splits. Maybe in some cases you need to have a computer at each split, and somehow all that data needs to get aggregated into a single event. So these two right here are the most common use cases that we'll take a look at today. So the first use case is just all the splits in the finish come into one single machine. The second use case I think is a lot more common for timers that are doing lots of split events. You're going to have your computer at the finish, and you're going to have another computer that is handling all the splits. Another reason for doing this too is if something happens and you run into trouble with splits, this finish machine is separate and it's only focused on the finish, and you as the timer can go back and figure out what happened with the splits at a later time. So we'll also take a look at this use case where I've got another computer set up that we'll send some fake split data into, and then we'll do the finished data from this machine. There's also a third use case where you could have any number of computers sending any amount of split data to AthleticLIVE. So this is just one example where maybe you have one computer doing one split, another doing a second split, another doing the finish. Not particularly common, but certainly have seen things like this a couple times. We won't go over this today because it is fairly rare, but if you do have this use case, feel free to reach out and I can work with you on getting everything set up in the admin. And one note here with use case 2 and use case 3, with Meet Pro, I know you can load in multiple LIFs. So you could load in a lift from this split computer to pull your splits in. Then you could load a lift in from the finish computer to bring your finish times in. But we also provide the ability where if you've got all your splits and your finish in our system, you can export a lift from the admin that's got all the splits and the finish concatenated together, and then you can import that into your meet management system. We'll take a look at that once we've done these demos here. So we'll take a look at use case 1 first, where we're doing our splits and our finish on one computer. So the really important thing that we need to know is what data is coming from what computer. So we term each computer that's sending a lift of some sort as a lift machine. And in the AthleticLIVE admin, we need to know what data is coming from each machine. So when you're doing this, this scoreboard type, and you haven't added any lift machines, we're going to give you a big red notice right here saying, please fill this out. And you can click here for detailed instructions if you like. It's just going to go over everything that we're going to go over in this webinar. So you could add a lift machine for a single meet. Maybe you've got 5 or 6 races. They're all doing the same splits. You're using the same machine. That's fine. But much like with our other settings, you can do this per event as well. And that's what we'll do here today. So we'll have a girls 5K that is going to do use case 1. And they'll have a boys 5K that's going to do use case 2. So I'm going to head to my manage event screen. And for my girls run, I'm going to click on the arrow, the down arrow next to actions, and click on set splits. Down here it says define your lift machines. So click on this plus button, and we're going to have a single lift machine, just like in this setup. And this lift machine is going to be called finish. So we'll give it the name finish. And it does have all the splits, and it has the finish. So we'll check both of these boxes. If we were doing use case 3, and we had a case where there were multiple computers sending multiple splits, maybe in different order, then we could define those split numbers here. And that's pretty well documented in the documentation, but not something we're going to go over today. So we're all set here for our lift machines, and this brings up another important point, is that you can define your split names for the live scoreboard. If you don't do this, it's fine, but the splits will just say split 1, split 2, split 3. So here, we'll do 1 mile, 2 mile, and finish. You want to keep these split names as short as possible for a better mobile experience, and then always add a finish at the end. Actually, we'll just do 5K. And we'll save that. And for the boys, we're going to do use case 2. So we are going to have, oops, I clicked the wrong button. We want to go into actions, down arrow, and click set splits. So we'll do the same splits for the boys. And then we'll want to add 2 lift machines. If we look at our diagram, the first one is called split, and that's going to do all the splits. And the second one's called finish, and that's going to do the finish split. And these names are important because when we start up AthleticLIVE Local on each machine, we need to give this name to AthleticLIVE Local so AthleticLIVE knows what data is being sent to it. So in this case, our split machine is sending all the splits. Our finish machine is sending the finish. So we can click OK. And we are all set to go. Well, one more thing I'll note before we get started here is when you're doing this auto saving, you want to make sure you're saving to the local computer and not over a network. If you save over a network and the network goes down for any reason, Finish Links is going to crash and you're going to lose, you're probably going to lose whatever you've gotten so far. So obviously, terrible thing, no one wants that. But if you do save locally, and it's going to get saved to the directory under database in your output directory. So in my case, the Z drive is just pointing to a local directory on my machine, so that's fine. All right, so let's go ahead and open our girls 5K. And also in Athletic Live Local, I need to come in and make sure that I have my lift connection settings set properly. So if you come into the dashboard of Athletic Live Local and you scroll down, you'll see these XC lift connection settings. We need to know two things. One, we need to know the name of the lift machine. This is the name that we defined in the set split screen, so it's going to be finish. And we need to know where the lifts are being saved. So once again, this is the same directory that is in database and output directory. So that's our Z drive. We'll submit that. And last but not least, we need to choose our second meet. We'll click on change and we'll select the big meet. Submit. Just a second here. All right, cool. So we are all set to go. So let's go ahead and change over to the big meet. Okay. So for some reason here, I've got two events. I'm not totally sure why. This can happen if you've got lifts that are already in your directory. So it's always a good idea to clean your directory out before you upload anything or before you select the meet. And this does give me an opportunity to show, because this does happen sometimes where you just get, maybe there's just an extra event here for some reason. You can always come into the admin, go to scoreboards, and delete any scoreboards. These may have been left over from a test I was doing earlier, which that'll happen to you too. Just testing everything out, making sure it works. This is just a good backup to, if you're doing some tests and you forgot to finish something or delete something, you can come do it in here. So we'll go back to the meet and they're gone. Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and get this started. We'll set this for 3 laps because we have a 1 mile, 2 mile and finish. All right, cool. So we've got our girls 5K there now, and I'll start the event. And capture some picture. And we'll head into the scoreboard and we'll start adding some times here. So you'll see there is an ever so slight delay. It's because with this version, they're not getting uploaded automatically. It's getting uploaded every 5 seconds when Finish Links is auto-saving that lift. So we've got 5 people here. We've got 5 people on our live scoreboard. You'll note that we've got buttons here for the different mile markers. So right now we've got no 2 mile and no finish. And if I go to team standings, we're going to see our live team standings also. So if I add a few more here. Now we've got our full complement. All right, so we've got 6 and 6. That'll work for us. All right, so let's go ahead and get a second split. Just randomly type some numbers here. You'll see that the number starts going up here, just saying that there are currently 7 results in for the 2 mile. If I click on that, we can then see all of the scores and people as I'm making marks. And it looks like, oh, I can see I made a mistake right there. Put a guy in, just took him out, should no longer be in the finish. So I need to delete it here too. All right, so he's back to 1 lap left. All right, cool. So our finish got changed back to 0. So you have the ability to make those changes if you need to. All right, now we've got all 3 people on the same lap. Awesome. One thing you'll note here is if there was a change in team score, that would appear right here. I'll make that happen for the finish so it's evident. But this is just saying that Bighorn High School was in first place in the last split and they have not changed in the second split. Let's go ahead and get our finish. I'll just make some marks here quickly. If we go to the finish, we'll see that change I mentioned, where we can now see the place changes. So we see Clark's Fork, they moved up a spot. Bighorn High School moved down a spot. We've also got two other tabs over here for compiled and compiled team. If I go to compiled, as splits get entered, they are going to appear in this grid. So I can see that this person right here started in 12th place, went to 11th, and then finished in first. So they went up one spot, went up 10 spots. And we also have their cumulative time in bold and their lap time just in regular text. So this is a good way to just get a general idea of all the splits that have happened and how people moved throughout the race. Same thing with compiled team. So, and it's this small just so it looks good on a phone. So we'll see 32 points, 31 points, they moved up into first place with 19 points. And then this 5 out of 5, this changes just like this number of scores changes here. So you can see that someone's at 1 of 5 or 3 of 5 or however many people are in for that amount of scores. Okay, let's take it to the next level. So what if we've got use case 2, where for the boys race, we're going to have one machine that is going to gather all the splits. And then we have this second machine, our current machine, that's going to grab the finish. So on a separate computer, I've got another instance of Finish Link set up and it's all ready to go. So I'll go ahead, save this, and go to the boys 5K. And I'm just going to get Finish Links all set to go so we can start them at the same time. And there are better ways to do this, but I'm just going to do a manual start for both these events at the same time. Okay, so they've both started now. And we're on the boys 5K. Everything here has changed because now we're on the boys event instead of the girls. And I'm going to go ahead and send in some splits. You see here we've got one split in and the rest should show up here shortly. So we have 21 now. So there's 21 splits that have come in, all from that second computer. And the only difference over there is that in AthleticLIVE Local, too many tabs open. There we go. Okay, AthleticLIVE Local. The XC Lift Connection settings, this name is set to split instead of finish. So that's how we know to parse those as splits instead of finish times. So let's head back to the meet and let's send in the second set of splits. One got in here, and then within a couple seconds, we should see the rest come in. Yep, so we have the rest that have come in. We have our mile and 2 mile standings. We can come into our compiled and compiled team and see those also. So now it's time to get some finish time. So I'll go ahead and grab a picture here and begin to make some marks. So we've got our first finisher here, and see these folks have moved up pretty well, and I'll just keep making some marks here. As you can see, everything's coming in. And if I were to have accidentally hit a split, so let's say I accidentally hit a split for, say 16, that split's going to get filtered because AthleticLIVE knows that the finish computer is only sending finish times. So the same thing goes true if you're on the split machine and you accidentally enter some finish times. Those are not going to get to the scoreboard and mess with anything from your finish computer. Cool. So everything's the same. We're handling that compilation in the AthleticLIVE side after you send it up. So I'm just going to go ahead and quickly add in the rest of these guys here, so I can illustrate how you can export the lift of the splits from the split computer and the finish times from this computer, and how they can all make it into your meet management system. Cool. All right, that's everybody. So go ahead and save it. So you're all done with the event, and now you want to get a lift out of our system, so you don't have to do any kind of lift management on your end and exporting and importing a bunch of different files. So if you go to Manage Events, and our boys 5K run, export scoreboard lift, that's going to download a generated lift to whatever directory you like. So I'll just hit save right here. And to make sure that it pulls in this lift as opposed to the generated lift from finish links, I'll just go ahead and close finish links so it doesn't write anymore to the lift. Just move this lift into a different folder. And you can go into Meet Pro, High Tech, whatever system you use that reads lifts. Just got High Tech for today. I can come into here, come to my boys 5K run. Let me go ahead and purge those results real quick. Or actually, I have to pull it in again. Here we go. So get times. Not set to the right directory there. So get times, get score, and we can see that those splits got pulled in, even though they were on a different finish links machine. Right. So that is scoreboards in a brief nutshell. You've got two options, either that normal finish link scoreboard if you're just doing some finish times, or using this lift export option if you're trying to do some more complicated stuff or do splits. So one other thing we have available to timers, just if you've got Result TV, maybe you're already using it to display individual times, but haven't been able to show team scores yet because that does involve some kind of calculation. You can't just get that out of finish links. You've got to have some kind of middleware program that handles that creation. So AthleticLIVE Local can do that for you. So let's take a quick look and just we can head to our help site, the AthleticLIVE help site, and head down here. We can take a look at how to display these finish and split scores on Result TV. So this is also going to make use of the autosave functionality that we already added. We've already done that, so we're all good to go there. You will need an RSS file. So this is, if you are using Result TV to send individual results, you have an RSS file. And this is going to be similar for these scores. So you'll download this RSS file, which we've already got on our system. I'll just go ahead and open Result TV here. And you'll need to add a source. So come into Options, go to Sources, and you'll add this ALive XC score list source. You'll use that script that you download right here. You'll set it to single byte, network listen, and any port that you choose. We just happen to choose 5891. That's an open port on Windows, so you'll have no problem using that unless you've got something that happens to be running that port, but probably not. So we're all good to go there. And with this RSS file, you have a few fields, place, team name, points, the scorers and max scorers, and you can see an example right here of a previous event that I've done. So we've got our place, team name, 2 out of 5 people are in. They're currently at 5 points, and showing the average time, the gap, and you could also show the total time as well. And then a customizable event name that we'll go over how to do in just a minute. So once you got your Result TV layout set and your source set up, Now we need to figure out how to gather this data from finish links and send it to Athletic Live Local, so Athletic Live Local can populate Result TV. So I'll head back to Athletic Live Local here, and you'll see there's a menu item on the left called Result TV, XC Score List. Click on that. And you can use a CSV file to import a lot of these XC score list outputs. That's helpful if you've got a bunch of races and you want to show split scores and finish scores. And I'll go over how to do that in just a second. Before I do, let's take a look at actually just creating one so you can see what all of the variables are. So first we've got the event settings. So event number would be the finish links event number. So maybe it's 20. The event name, this is the name that you can have that appear at the bottom of your Result TV scoreboard. So I'll just say test event, how many scorers and displacers you have, so that's all customizable, whatever the tiebreaker is. One of the nice things about this is you can do team scores at a split or at the finish. So you could be on your board, after most people come through split 1, you could be showing split 1 and split 2 and the finish. So people that are there at the meet want to see that physical scoreboard, they can see that data. Just type in finish. You do need to know the LIF file name because that's where the data is coming from. So if the LIF's not created yet, you can figure out what it'll be. So in our case, I'm just going to copy, use Control Shift and click copy as path. So the LIF name is always going to be the event number, the round, then the heat number. So because we're event number 20, just say 20, round 1, heat 1. And this is way easier in the CSV file. You'll see in a second. And then we need to know we're reading this data from the LIF, and we need to send it into Result TV. So because Result TV is on the same computer as Athletic Live Local, we're going to use that lovely localhost address again. We're going to use port 5891, which is the port that we defined in our source. We'd like to show 3 at a time. Maybe we only want to show the top 18 schools, top 20 schools. We could set that right here if we wanted to. I'll just say 20. And how often should the paging switch? So we want to show 3 scores at a time every 5 seconds. We have this checkbox again, whether we want to show the partial team scoring or show final team scores. We'll go ahead and check that. And checkbox to allow you to send the event name as defined right here to Result TV instead of the LIF event name. So you could use whatever the LIF event name is. In the case of this first file, it's just girls 5K run CC, or you can customize it to be whatever you like. Let's submit. And that's going to get added at the bottom of our list here. So probably not going to do, I would doubt that under a normal use case, you'll be adding them or editing these directly in the admin. So let's take a look at a way to do this maybe a little bit faster. So you can create a CSV file. When we do have a template here on the help page, it's at the very bottom. This CSV file right here, just a template with all the headers that you need. If I bring this out, we'll see a lot of the same fields that we looked at when we were entering them into the form. So the only thing really different is just an ID number, just some kind of unique ID. So I just set these to 0 through 11, define the event numbers, the event names, scorers, Result TV information, all the LIF files that we need, what split number it is, and then our paging size, paging time, and whether we want to show partial teams or not. So pretty straightforward there. And all of these fields, they are documented in the online help document in the Athletic Live help section if you need a refresher on what any of these are. In Athletic Live Local, I have already imported these, but you can import again if you want to make a couple changes. Maybe you want to set these to 0 or set these to no instead of yes. You can save, and if you come into here, we'll see that right now it's set to score partial teams. If I upload this again, should have those now set to score full teams. So you can manage everything in a CSV spreadsheet and continue to import if you need to make any changes. So let's see how this works. Let's take this women's 5K, for example. So the file does not exist yet, so we don't see any kind of start or stop buttons. And if we were to go look at the girls' 5K, we do have some. So there are some start buttons here, but we'll wait to push these until we get our sample event, this women's 5K, rolling. So let's go ahead and open finish links. And I'm going to go ahead and just put this result TV setup right here just to always be on top so we can see it. Even if I've got other programs above it, always on top. Cool. There we go. All right. So let's open that women's 5K. Get that started. If I refresh this page, we should see that the file now exists because we're using autosave and we just opened the event. So there's our 003-1-01. So I'll go ahead and click start. And this is for the 1 mile first split. So now we see everything's gone here because the lift is empty. And if I start adding some times, within a few seconds, we should start to see these populate. We got our place, team name. See, Gallatin High School has got 3 scorers right now, and the number of points they have, and that will just continue as you add more times and links. When you decide to switch from, say, split 1 to split 2, you do need to make sure that you click stop. So on the women's 5K, we need to click stop right here, because if we start these 2 at the same time, you end up with 2 different programs trying to send data into Result TV, and you're going to end up with a lot of switching, and it's going to look weird. So I'll stop this. Then I'll go ahead, head down to the women's 5K 2 mile, click start. And let's see, I did click that person twice, so that's why they're showing up right there. So if I add some more times in here for the second split, we'll see this update. And you can envision how that works. It just keeps going as you add more times, just like on the live scoreboard online. It's just going to automatically update as you make changes and as you add results and splits. That concludes our webinar today. Let me go ahead and turn this off. Turn Result TV, switch this back to not always being on top. There we go. Okay. That concludes our webinar today. And we've got some resources here. This presentation link is in the Zoom chat. So if you want to take a look at that presentation link, come to the last slide, you'll see all of the help docs we looked at today, being able to customize your small event setup, your big event setup, how to exclude teams from live scoring, and how to set split names, and how to do that Result TV setup as well. Now, this 6th webinar does conclude our Learn Athletic Live series for the time being. We do plan to do some more webinars at another point, and if you have any ideas, please feel free to let us know. But this will be the last webinar for the near future. So thank you very much for attending this webinar, and thank you if you've attended any others. I really appreciate it, and thank you for learning more about Athletic Live. And I'll go ahead here and just see if there are any questions and answers that came in, if there's anything that I can add to. Cool, looks like the questions were answered. All right, cool. So thank you, everybody. I'll stand here for a couple more minutes if you do have any more questions. Otherwise, have a great rest of your night and enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you very much.